I wanted to show you a house that I inspected a few months ago. This is during the summer, and I found it, you know, it's fairly interesting. The reason that they had mold underneath their house. It took me probably 10 to 15 minutes laying on my stomach underneath in this crawl space, just laying there going, what is going on? Why is this happening? And then I finally had an epiphany and figured it out. And so I'm going to walk you through this experience and what happened. So this was a client that was purchasing a home, and they had hired me to look because they found what looked like mold underneath the house, and they were correct. And I will say, most of the time when you've got mold underneath your house in the crawl space, as long as you can get the relative humidity under control, it's normal fungal ecology. It's not going to eat through your joists. It's not going to destroy your house. It can be something to worry about structurally if you don't control the relative humidity, because it will continue to eat the wood that's underneath there. If you can get it taken care of and you've got your building envelope sealed, then you're not going to get spores from the crawl space entering into your home. Your air should be fine. You're not going to get the mycotoxins up in there. But in this case, they were purchasing the home and they were moving here from another state, and they just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a huge issue that they were going to run into. So they asked me to go into the house and look where they thought they saw mold. And so I did. And so when I got under there, I noticed that the joists were a little bit moist. It's nothing that made me go, oh no, this is terrible. But I was like, okay, well, that's kind of strange, because I also took the relative humidity underneath the house, and the relative humidity was great. I mean, we're at 40% here. This is phenomenal. I mean, you're never going to get mold growth when you have 40% relative humidity. So I went over to the area where they had said they thought it was mold, and I mean, I had to bear crawl like 30 yards on my belly. It was not fun, but we finally got there, and I noticed that there was mold on the joist. You can see this brown substance right here, and the moisture meter is showing that it is high in moisture. And I'm wondering to myself, why is it in this area as opposed to the entire crawl space? Why is it just here? And so I took a few more measurements, and it was high. And I noticed also that some of the screws had rusted, which is a huge sign that there are moisture issues. Screws aren't supposed to rust. So it's metal. If you see rust on a screw, then you know that there is a high moisture level in whatever area that is. That same thing goes for hinges and cabinets. If you have rust on the hinges in your cabinets, that's another indication that you've got high moisture. And if you've got high moisture, you're going to get mold. I mean, it's not a matter of if, but when. I also noticed in this little spot, this little like 5 foot by 5 foot spot, the relative humidity had spiked up to 70%. And if you get relative humidity over 70%, you're going to get mold. I mean, it is what it is. And that's why the mold was growing on the joists. But I'm laying there on my belly thinking, what is going on? Why is it in this little area right here? I don't understand. I did some more moisture meter testing, and it was exceptionally high in this area. And it just happened to be on this side of the brick skirting where the AC was located. So that was a clue, and I still didn't know the reason why, but I just knew, okay, the AC's right across from me. It's really wet right here. What is going on? So I reached down and I grabbed some mud just to play with it. It looked wet, and it shouldn't be mud, it should be dirt, right? So I reached down and I grabbed it, and you could see the mud was sticking to my fingers, and I was able to ball it up. It felt like, the sand at the beach that had gotten wet a little while ago. So it's not like soaking wet, but it's still something that's pliable and you can play with and shape it. And I probably could have built a sand castle with the sand down there. So I'm laying there, and I just happen to be laying in the spot where I look over, and it took me, I mean, and I'm not, I'm going to be honest here. There was a good 10 to 15 minutes of me just laying there, looking around, going, what the heck is going on? And I have this picture pulled up, and this is the answer. I don't know if you can tell just by this picture, but this is what I had to look at that eventually made me figure it out. If you want to study this, you can pause it, take a look, see if you can figure it out yourself. But the answer is that the AC lines were not insulated, and they were buried underground. You can see that little green speck right there. That's the copper from one of the AC lines, and you can see it coming back out of the ground going towards the inside unit. I'm facing underneath the house, so it's towards the inside unit. You can also see where that insulation is insulating it 3 or 4 feet from where I am up to the AC unit inside, but it stops and there's no more insulation. And this area was getting moist from the AC line condensating into the dirt. You would think that the dirt would help insulate it, but it doesn't. It just absorbs the moisture that comes out of it. And so this 5 foot by 5 foot area had been absorbing moisture all summer, probably for years, with no insulation. And you could see, actually right here, I've forgot about this. There's actually like wheatgrass. Looked like wheatgrass growing out of the ground right there. In an area that gets no sunlight, it's just moist, right? Then I did some digging and exposed the lines. All of that dirt around there was like wet sand, just like you find at a beach. So that was the answer to the question. So I did a little bit more investigating. I went outside, looked at the line where it came out of the ground, and it was not insulated. So you're losing a lot of efficiency right there with the line able to dissipate its coldness before it gets into the AC condenser. And so that affects your AC performance right there. But it goes straight into the ground. And so I pulled out my infrared camera and looked at the ground from where the AC line ran from the unit under the brick skirting. And you can see, it's kind of hard because of the glare, but you can see it's got a color difference. It's colder. The ground was colder right there. That AC was literally cooling the ground, which is losing efficiency. Not to mention there are other issues when you have your AC line underneath the ground, because that can affect, I'm not an AC guy, forgive me, I'm just going off of what I remember in my research, but that can cause refrigerant to gather inside the AC line, which when your AC starts up, it's pulling that in, thinking that it's gas, and it can ruin your motor. There are a lot of issues that can come from that. But it was I was so happy to have been able to find that, and the client was happy because they were able to negotiate the price a little bit. I think they did. I don't know for sure, but they told me they were going to. Let this be a lesson to anyone watching this. Don't bury your AC lines. Insulate them and have them go above ground. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Longview Mold Inspectors, 903-900-MOLD. Call and get your house inspected today.